Hello, folks. Today is the feast day of Saint Jerome. He is one of the four first doctors of the church. Saint Jerome was a wonderful biblical scholar. He monumental in how he translated the original Greek and Aramaic and Hebrew texts into Latin, and where we get the Vulgate. So, 4th century priest. He studied in Rome. He was a student of Rome right before they fell in 420. He was baptized there, and then afterwards he kind of lived as a hermit, he lived an ascetic life, but I think before he was a hermit, around 374. So in his early years, then he went to Palestine. Jerome he went to Antioch. He went all over, and he heard lectures from a great philosopher named Apollinarius, who helped him decide to live as a hermit. So he was kind of experimenting with the ascetical life, and then he actually became a hermit, and he just went out into the desert. And that was the thing in the first, second, third century. We have the desert fathers, St. Anthony of the Desert, and all those after that St. Jerome was influenced by. He then learned Hebrew over there, and then he went back to Antioch, where he became a priest, where he was ordained. He spent time in what was then Constantinople. Then he went back to Rome, and then he eventually became the secretary of the Pope at the time, Pope Damasus. And then after the Pope died, he then went to Egypt, and then he traveled around. He settled in Bethlehem. So he's in the Middle East, and specifically the Holy Land. But it was there in Bethlehem, and when I went to Bethlehem, I got to see where St. Jerome worked and where he translated all those Greek texts, Hebrew texts, Old Testament texts into Latin. It was really profound for me because it was all original, had been preserved, and it was really cool. There's pictures of it on Google if you look up St. Jerome in Bethlehem, where he spent his life as a hermit, monk, priest who was gifted in the linguistics. He truly was a polyglot. There he did his work, and he even founded a monastery. There were a lot of heresies going on at this time. Arianism, virginity of the Blessed Mother, that was going on. They just hadn't defined it yet. And also Origen, who was a popular figure at that time, his teachings as well. Some of them are controversial. But yeah, St. Jerome is a great scholar. He's one of the four scholars, first four doctors of the church, and he translated the Bible that we know into Latin, and then the Vulgate, and that's what they used for 1,000 years plus. It wasn't until last couple hundred years they started to translate it into the English and the vernacular of the local languages, which started around the 1500s, 1550s, where you have the Protestant Reformation and all those things that happened where nobody could read Latin. So, Martin Luther was one of those leading figures, translated it into Germany, and so forth. But for 1,000, 1,100 years, it was all in Latin, and you had to get the Word of God by going to Mass to hear it from a preacher who would translate it in his sermon or homily. St. Jerome is just a big giant of a figure in the church, one of the doctors. So this is his feast day, and look him up. And he is the patron of those who do speak languages, and those who translate and who do scriptural exegesis, scriptural work, priest scholars who have high degrees, level sacred scriptural degrees, St. Jerome is their patron. God bless. Have a good day. And thank you for joining me. Bye.